Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another great show for you today. First, this comes from last night's live, a question from one of our aficionados. What about that Minnesota judge that overturned the $7.2 million Medicaid fraud conviction? Let's talk about that. Day 3 of the Brian Walshe murder trial centers on life insurance policies and trash. A biological mother and the stepfather are charged with the murder and torture of a pregnant 22-year-old daughter of the mom. Tennessee woman charged with second-degree murder after, stabbing her husband following a funeral. An Arizona woman is charged with attempted murder after she declared Thanksgiving attack as her Independence Day. We've got this day in legal history, our legal quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
Lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that bell for notifications, and yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Let me also remind you, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up, and get a background subscription service. Remember, you can do as many searches as you desire while you have it, and guess what? You can cancel at any time. So whether you want to do one search or 1,000 searches, you can do it at one cost. So go to crimetalksearch.com, get that background report prepared while you wait, have it emailed to you, and find out what you are looking for. Let me also remind you, go down, hit the link below, get your Crime Talk merch just in time for Christmas. Order now. And let's go ahead and get to the docket for Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. So let's go ahead and open the record. And the first case on the docket, like I said, came from a question last night about the judge in Minnesota overturning a conviction for Medicaid fraud. So a Hennepin County District Judge has acquitted a Minneapolis man previously convicted by a jury of defrauding Minnesota's Medicaid program of more than $7.2 million, obviously prompting some sharp criticism from the prosecutors, even the jurors, and the state lawmakers that make the law. Now, the ruling has intensified scrutiny of judicial oversight in large-scale public assistance fraud cases in the state. Now, Abdel-Fattah Yusuf and his wife, Lou Ahmed, were indicted back in June of 2024 on multiple felony counts related to their operation of Promise Health, Inc., a home health care provider enrolled in Minnesota's Medicaid Housing Stabilization Service program. State investigators allege the company billed the program for services that were never rendered or were unsupported by required documentation, despite having no physical office and conducting business for years through, that's right, a commercial mailbox. That's a P.O. box for those who don't know that. So prosecutors presented evidence that Yusuf transferred more than $1 million from the business account to his personal account and then withdrew $387,000 in cash, because that's normal. And then financial records reportedly showed extensive personal spending at high-end retailers, including, Coach, Nike, Nordstrom's, Canada Goose, Michael Kors, and other luxury outlets. Anyway, back in August of 2025, a jury convicted Yusuf on 6 counts of aiding and abetting theft by swindling exceeding $35,000 each. However, in November of 2025, an order by the district court judge, Sarah West, granted the defendant's motion for judgment of acquittal, vacating the guilty verdict on all charges. Now, in her written decision, Judge West stated that the prosecution's case rested predominantly on circumstantial evidence and that the state failed to exclude other reasonable interpretations of the financial transactions. While expressing concern of how fraud was able to occur within the Promise Health operation, the judge concluded that the evidence presented at trial did not meet the constitutional standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, needless to say, the acquittal has drawn some strong reactions. The jury foreperson, for example, a guy by the name of Bren Walford, described the panel's deliberations as straightforward, lasting no more than 4 hours, and expressed astonishment at the ruling. Another juror told local media that the panel reached unanimous agreements pretty easily based upon the evidence. A state representative chimed in, Kristen Robbins, called the decision stunning and renewed calls to strengthen and state fraud statutes to improve prosecutorial outcomes in similar cases. Well, Yusuf's defense attorney, Ian Burrell, welcomed the ruling. Of course he would. Why wouldn't you? I'd be happy if that was my client, right? Anyway, he asserted that it validated his client's position that no criminal fraud or racketeering occurred. The court's careful review of the evidence and application of the law reaffirmed the bedrock principles that conviction requires proof, not mere suspicion. Well, the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who you would think would go along with that decision, he said, no, we're going to appeal it, arguing that sufficient, direct, and circumstantial evidence supported the jury's verdict and that the trial court erred in substituting its judgment for that of the jurors. Now, as you may know, Minnesota has faced a series of some high-profile public fund fraud scandals in recent years, including the Feeding Our Future case, in which prosecutors alleged hundreds of millions of dollars in federal COVID relief intended for children. Nutrition was actually embezzled. The Yusuf case is separate, but has been cited by critics as part of the broader pattern of vulnerability in the state-administered benefits program. Now, the appeal will be held by the Minnesota Court of Appeals, and a briefing is expected sometime in early 2026. Now, last night we were on our live. Somebody asked about this. I think I heard, maybe saw a quick headline about something, but I didn't pay much attention to it. To the defense counsel, I guess, hey, congratulations, you convinced the judge. To the judge, wow. Like I said, I've been doing criminal defense for 30 years. Never had a judge override the verdict of a jury. Never. Now, I've had judges that have been a little surprised by whether or not guilty verdict or even a guilty verdict. Like, wow, I thought they were going to quit him on that. But the judge never overrode it because that's the job of the jury. The jury has the instructions. They know the legal standard, and the jury was satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt. So I haven't seen the complete order, but for the judge to say that the prosecution's evidence didn't meet the standard, well, why didn't she throw it out at the motion for judgment of acquittal after the prosecution rested their case? Well, usually because the judges will state, and the law usually states, that the judge should not substitute itself as the 13th juror in the case and let the jury decide if the prosecution has proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. We'll have to wait and see. Shocks me. When I was reading several articles about this, that actually got job. I can't recall of a case. I'm sure there have been, but I can't recall any off the top of my head where a judge says, yeah, those guilty verdicts we're going to overturn. I just don't think the evidence was sufficient enough. Unbelievable. Next on the docket, day 3 of the Brian Walshe murder trial. Let's talk insurance and trash. That's right. So the third day of the testimony in the first-degree murder trial of Brian Walshe shifted focus to financial motives and physical evidence recovered from trash facilities as prosecutors continue to build their case surrounding the disappearance and presumed death of his wife, Anna Walshe, on January 1st of 2023. Now, Walshe, who has already entered guilty pleas to charges of corpse desecration. That's right. That's where he chopped up his wife and disposed of her body, but he didn't kill her. And misleading investigators maintains that he did not murder his wife. His defense team contends that Anna Walshe suffered a sudden, unexplained medical event while in bed following New Year's Eve's festivities, prompting him to panic and, of course, conceal her remains. Because once again, that is totally normal, is it not? Your loving wife who maybe is having an affair, has a medical emergency that you apparently had nothing to do with, but so the natural reaction is to panic, chop her up, and dispose of her remains around the general area in which you live. Not exactly normal behavior. I look forward to seeing how the defense is going to get into evidence, actual evidence, not just opening statements, but actual evidence that there was this medical emergency. I think Mr. Walshe is going to have to testify himself. And, you could have got him to say, hey, she disappeared. Don't know what happened to her. I don't know. Things happen, right? But when you say you already chopped her up and disposed of her body and lied to the police about it, it's a tough sell. Really, really tough sell. I think I would have waited and saved the whole climax for everything and say, hey, find him guilty of these 2 counts, but don't find him guilty of murder. But hey, let them do what they want. Anyway, as I know, no body's ever been recovered despite extensive searches, presenting prosecutors with obviously the challenge of proving murder without the physical remains, unless, of course, the defendant pleads guilty to chopping up the body. A New York life insurance agent, Mark Selvaggi, testified that Anna Walshe purchased two policies through his office, $1 million term life insurance policy and a $250,000 whole life policy. In both instances, Brian Walshe was named as the primary beneficiary. Selvaggi further revealed that Brian Walshe had previously applied for life insurance coverage on multiple occasions, but was denied due to an ongoing federal fraud case against him. There was also evidence recovered from various trash locations. The Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab analyst, David Gould, described examining several trash bags collected from a transfer station linked to the investigation. Among the items recovered were, first, a pair of green boots, a jacket, bracelet, black purse, and a wallet, headphone socks, and a Volkswagen keys, towels, and a white bathrobe bearing red-brown stains, slippers with similar red-brown staining. They say red-brown staining because they have to bring in the people to say that that's actually blood. And I say the people, it's the crime lab people. So until the evidence comes in that it's actually blood, they have to say red-brown staining. Anyway, medical-style gauze tape and under cross-examination, Gould acknowledged that he could not determine when the stains were applied to the items and conceded it was possible that the objects were unstained when initially discarded. Okay, a couple points on cross-examination. Is it going to be enough to carry the day? I don't know. Anyway, Gould also testified about processing the Volvo XC90 connected to the case back on January 9th in 2023, and he observed a red-brown stain on both the driver's and passenger side sun visors and located examination-style gloves inside the car. Preliminary blood screening tests returned positive results in 5 separate areas. Just got to wait to get that evidence. The landlord of the Walshe's Cohasset residence, a guy by the name of Peter Capozzoli, recounted receiving telephone calls from Brian Walshe while vacationing abroad, during which Walshe inquired whether the property was equipped with security cameras following his wife's reported disappearance. The Massachusetts State Police Sergeant Amy Waterman described Anna Walshe's Washington, D.C. townhouse as orderly and well-maintained when they searched that in early January of 2023. Records custodians from Uber and Lyft confirmed no rideshare activity on Anna Walshe's accounts between December 30th and January 8th, aside from 2 Uber trips on December 30th. JetBlue and U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials verified that Anna Walshe was booked on but did not board an early morning flight from Boston to Washington, D.C. on January 3rd. And earlier in the week, prosecutors presented internet search history recovered from devices in the Walshe home, including queries related to dismemberment, decomposition, and disposal of remains. Defense attorneys emphasized on cross-examination that many searches lacked explicit references to homicide and appeared to evolve over time. Testimony is scheduled to resume on Thursday morning. The trial is in the Norfolk Superior Court. Next, also brought you this story last night on our live program. A mom and stepdad charged with murdering mom's pregnant 22-year-old daughter. That's right. Police in Michigan have formally charged a 40-year-old woman and her 47-year-old husband with the brutal killing of the woman's biological daughter, 22-year-old Rebecca Park, who was 38 weeks pregnant at the time of her death. The couple is accused of torturing the victim in a failed attempt to extract her unborn child, resulting in the death of both Park and the fetus. Now, Courtney Bartholomew and Bradley Bartholomew were arraigned on multiple felony counts following the discovery of Rebecca Park's remains in the Manistee National Forest on November 25th of 2025. Prosecutors allege that on November 3rd, the Bartholomews lured Park to their residence in Wexford County, where they subjected her to prolonged torture intended to forcibly remove the nearly full-term infant. Now, the Michigan Attorney General, Dana Nessel, described the case as deeply tragic, stating Rebecca had everything to live for and their hearts are with their loved ones. And absolutely, this is unthinkable loss. They said they're committed to working alongside the Wexford County Prosecuting Attorney's Office to ensure that justice is pursued. The defendants each face the following charges: first-degree murder, life without the possibility of parole; felony murder, life offense; and conspiracy to commit torture, also a life offense; assault on a pregnant individual causing a miscarriage or stillbirth offense; conspiracy to commit assault on a pregnant individual causing miscarriage or stillborn; and unlawful imprisonment, which carries up to 15 years. Let's not forget about the removal, concealment of a dead body, which is carries up to 1 year. It's a misdemeanor. And as of today, a date for the probable cause hearing has not yet been scheduled. I think somebody was going to try to get that baby and sell it, don't you? That's what I'm thinking. Next, a Tennessee woman charged with, maybe stabbing her husband on the way back from a funeral. Most people usually think about life after a funeral, like how lucky they are to be alive, how quickly life can change. Well, a 56-year-old woman has been charged with a second-degree murder in the connection with the fatal stabbing of her husband, which police say occurred inside their car and contributed to a subsequent traffic accident that claimed his life. The Shelby County Sheriff's Office officials announced that Sheila Ann Curtis was taken into custody over the weekend following the death of her husband, Derek Curtis, also 56. And the incident unfolded on the evening of November 29th. Apparently, deputies responded shortly before 10 p.m. to a two-vehicle crash near the intersection of Houston Levee Road and Macon Road. One of the vehicles, a Chevrolet Colorado driven by Derek Curtis, had left the roadway and come to a rest in the ditch. Fire department personnel provided emergency treatment at the scene and transported the victim to Regional One Health there in Memphis, where he was pronounced deceased shortly after arrival. An initial examination revealed that Derek Curtis had sustained multiple stab wounds prior to the collision, and investigators determined that these injuries played a role in the crash itself. Detectives from the Sheriff's Office Violent Crime Unit quickly identified Sheila Curtis, the victim's wife and passenger in the car, as the person responsible for the wounds. Would seem to make sense. Anyway, according to official statements in the probable cause affidavit, first responders noted significant bleeding from injuries that appeared inconsistent with the relatively minor vehicle damage, and a substantial amount of blood was observed on the driver's side floorboard. While receiving medical attention, Derek Curtis reportedly informed paramedics that his wife had stabbed him. Medical personnel documented 3 distinct stab wounds to his left leg. During questioning, Sheila Curtis denied any involvement in the stabbing. She stated that the couple had attended a funeral earlier that day and became involved in a dispute while driving home. She claimed her husband dropped her off at the residence before leaving again and crashing shortly afterwards. However, the detectives noted that Sheila Curtis declined to provide details about the subject of the argument, though records indicate the couple had a prior history of domestic violence. A relative who picked up Sheila and her mother a short time after the crash, approximately 2 miles from the scene, told police that the mother explained they needed transportation because Sheila and Derek had gotten into it on the return trip from the funeral. Well, guess where Sheila is? She's currently in the Shelby County Jail with a $500,000 bond, and she has court later tomorrow. Next, an Arizona woman charged with attempted murder after she attacked her boyfriend and declared it as Independence Day. Another 50-something-year-old Mesa woman faces attempted murder charges after police say she slashed her longtime boyfriend's throat with a hunting knife on Thanksgiving Day and later expressed hope that he would not survive the attack. So, records indicate that Tamala Rudisell called 911 shortly after 8 p.m. on November 27th and openly admitted to the act. During the call, she reportedly told the dispatcher that she had just tried to murder her boyfriend and described the evening as, quote, my Independence Day, end quote. The Mesa police officers responded to an apartment complex in the area of Broadway Road and Country Club Drive, where they discovered the 11-year relationship partner with a severe laceration running from his left ear across the front of his neck. Emergency crews transported the victim to the hospital for immediate surgery. Where are they all? Well, guess what? The police also located a large folding hunting knife near Rudisill and took her into custody at the scene. The victim later told investigators that the couple had argued earlier that day and that his girlfriend frequently experienced depression during the holiday season. He said he was asleep when he suddenly felt intense pain in his neck. Believing he might die, he used a shirt to apply pressure to the wound until paramedics arrived. In a subsequent interview with detectives, Rudisill confirmed she intended to kill the man. And according to the police report, she stated, "Yes, God, I hope he is dead. I'd be a favor to me, his wife, and his children." She further revealed that after cutting one side of his throat, she had planned to slash the other side and then stab him in the heart. Little depression over the holidays, I guess, right? Anyway, Rudisill was booked into the Maricopa County Jail on one count of attempted first-degree murder and one count of aggravated assault. Bond is set at $1 million. Can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. You can't make it up. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, December 3rd, 1867. The Dakota Territorial Supreme Court sits for the first time in Yankton to hear appeals, formally launching the territory's highest court and laying groundwork for the later state judiciaries of North and South Dakota. Did you even know that there was a territorial Supreme Court? I didn't. December 3rd, 1867, Andrew Johnson attacks Reconstruction in his third annual message. That's right. President Johnson sends Congress a lengthy annual message criticizing radical Reconstruction, questioning black suffrage, and contesting congressional authority over readmission of southern states, deepening the constitutional crisis that soon leads to, well, his impeachment. On this day, 1931, Theodore Roosevelt's first trust-busting State of the Union. That's right. In his first annual message, President Theodore Roosevelt urges stronger federal oversight of powerful corporate trusts, foreshadowing a new era of antitrust enforcement and the Sherman Act. December 3rd, 1934. Guess what? First formal U.S. Border Patrol training school. That's right. A group of 25 Border Patrol inspectors began a 6-week training program in El Paso, Texas, marking the establishment of the patrol's first official training school and the professionalization of federal immigration and border enforcement practices. How about a quote of the day? How about let's talk about the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution, ratified 1791. Obviously, remains a pretty foundational area of Supreme Court judicial law. That's the Constitution, because it matters. It reads, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Now, the most influential judicial interpretation and modern articulation of this prohibition is found in U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Trope v. Dulles, a 1958 Supreme Court case where Chief Justice Earl Warren wrote for the plurality. That means 5-4 split. The basic concept underlying the 8th Amendment is nothing less than the dignity of man. The amendment must draw its meaning from the evolving standards of decency that mark the progress of a maturing society. Interesting. How remember the evolving, the 50s, we started the evolving standards type of thing, the living Constitution. And now we're going back to, you got to take it at the time that it was written. Plain meaning, strict constructionists, no room for interpretation, so to speak. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. An OnlyFans star. Yep, going to prison. Well, jail. Anyway, a 24-year-old New Hampshire woman who built a loyal following as Kinky Kelly on OnlyFans has discovered that some kinks come with, criminal consequences. Meet Kelly Tedford. She pled guilty Monday to 6 misdemeanor counts of criminal mischief after turning a local food co-op and a Marriott hotel into her personal film set for bodily fluid stunts earlier this year. The sentence, 1 full year in jail with half suspended, meaning the self-described submissive pixie will spend the next 6 months in the Cheshire County lockup, followed by 2 years of probation and a court order to keep seeing her therapist. Also, she's going to have to pay $10,500 to the Monadnock Food Co-op, which had to torch contaminated inventory and bleach every shelf, plus $500 to the Marriott, whose guests probably didn't sign up for a room with complimentary urine-soaked Bibles, curtains, and air conditioning units as well. She also allegedly left a special delivery in the toilet tank. Anyway, police suspect the footage was premium content for her $15 a month subscribers. Material now permanently off the menu, along with the OnlyFans page. A judge has helpfully banned her from ever returning to either location, just in case inspiration strikes again. From custom video to court-ordered counseling, sometimes the customer really isn't always right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, the Constitution matters.